So riddle me this. I went to go throw away the old water pump, and in the box was this bolt, which fit perfectly into one of the holes. But I'm pretty sure I put all the bolts into the water pump. What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. As you can see from that first clip, you can say I had some hiccups performing this job. What was supposed to be a simple alternator replacement turned into a full-blown timing belt job. Now I don't want to get too far into it about how we got there, but through this video it'll kind of show you the steps and the progressions and kind of the things I ran into on this Salvage LX. So sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy my experience working on this salvaged 2000 LX470. This is probably one of my most hated things to do on a vehicle, is to get the coolant out of the radiator, but I've kind of fixed the hose here. We'll see if this works. All right, well, that doesn't seem too bad. It seems to be flowing decently, so we'll just keep this here and see how it goes. Now, if you can see the color of that liquid, I'm not sure what kind of coolant they had in here last time, so that's another reason that I want to drain the system and put some fresh stuff in. Now, I filled it up with distilled water and got this thing up to pressure, and it seemed to stay in there just fine. So I think the radiator is good, but whatever coolant that was or wasn't or whatever, we just want to get it out, put some fresh stuff in. So we're gonna let this drain. After that's done, we'll start disconnecting hoses and then start making our way to get access to the alternator. The air box, at least right now, looks pretty free. These two clips here are released. Don't forget, anytime you're taking stuff off, make sure to label it, especially if this is the first time you've ever done a job like this. For me, it is, so I'm gonna label these, put them in a bag, and then I'm gonna see if I can go ahead and take this whole earpiece off. All right, do we have any other connections? No. All right, so that is the air box out. So it's gonna be two 10 mils that are actually holding it down there, and then just some clamps and some hoses. Really far down in the bottom, way down there, is gonna be the alternator, which is what we're gonna try to replace today. So as soon as the radiator drains, we're gonna take off that hose, and then undo the tension, take off the belt, and then try to figure out the best way to get the alternator out. The next thing we're going to try to do is get these 4 bolts out of this fan assembly. And the funny thing is, this serpentine belt, it has so little tension on it that every time you try to get a bolt, the whole thing just keeps sliding. Now, if you would have watched the Xterra video when I did my timing chain, the tension was still so good on the serpentine belt, like it just held it in place. And then you had to like take tension off the belt just to get it to rotate to get to the other ones. But this one, it just freely rotates because there's not enough tension on the belt. So I'm gonna figure out something, get those 4 bolts out, and then instead of trying to take this whole thing out, I'm gonna just see if I can recess it back here in the fan shroud and just get it out of the way, and then we'll go and start getting the tensioner pulley disconnected, get the belt off, and move our way down to the alternator. All right, so we took off this water inlet to the thermostat housing. We will take the thermostat out. It's pretty stuck in there right now, but we're gonna replace the thermostat. So this is a reverse threaded nut. So you're actually gonna go that way with it. And as you push down, it takes the tension off, and then you can just loosen up and take off the belt. Now, we have not got those 4 bolts out of the fan mechanism yet, But I'm gonna go ahead and take this part of the belt off because it doesn't matter, because it wasn't holding tension to keep that in place anyway. So we're just gonna have to figure out a different way to get those loosened up. Just in case you were wondering, there are 2 bolts here at the top for the tensioner. And then if you come down here, there is one that I believe the alternator is attached to, and then there's one more right down there. So I'm not 100% sure, but I might have to take off this cover to get the tensioner out. It looks like it kind of hides up underneath it, but I'm gonna check that in a second. So in order to get the alternator out, one of the things you have to do is get the power steering pulley out of the way. Now, since there wasn't enough tension on the belt to hold this in place, what I did is, if you see here, I got some parachute cord and I wrapped it around the frame. So then I got it to where it was holding tension, and then I was able to break the nut loose, which I believe was a 17 millimeter. So it's pretty good size. And I used my long ratchet to be able to break that loose. So I'll go ahead and take that off. I'm gonna find the second bolt for the alternator and then see if we can't start working that thing out. All right guys, quick update. You do have to take off the cover here to the timing belt. It's actually in 2 pieces. There's a bigger piece here and another piece that comes in right there. I also had to take the idler pulley off to get the smaller piece from back there. And then once those pieces were out, I was able to take out the tensioner. All right, so it's always a good thing to replace your tensioner pulley whenever you do a serpentine belt or anything like that. And if you listen to this, that bearing is no bueno. And then same way with this idler pulley, the bearing in there is bad as well. So we will be replacing both of these. There is one hiccup in getting the alternator freed up from those 2 bolts. If you can see way down there, right down there, that is a sheared bolt that was on the bottom holding the alternator in. You know, I thought it was a little stuck, so I was using some PB Blaster trying to penetrate it and get it freed up, and it started slowly moving, but I guess all I was doing is just torquing the end of it there and it broke. I get to deal with that crap now. But as of right now, I need to get that connection off. There's another connection right there, and there's another one on the other side, so I'm gonna work on getting those done and freeing the alternator up. All right, sit rep. Alternator out. That's a pain in the butt, man. I think partially because there's been so much oil that soaked all those parts. It was just ridiculous getting that out. The plug right there was probably the worst, just to squeeze out of there, but I got it out. Nothing broke. Well, obviously besides that one bolt down there. And this is it. That's what it looks like. As you can see, I mean, this thing's just heavily coated in oil. So I assume that could be a potential reason for its failure. But it looks like it's OEM Toyota. All right, guys, it is day 2 of working on the LX, and today we're going to try to get that bolt out that snapped yesterday. We got some extraction tools, and if we can see right there is where it broke out. Now I was going to try to put some heat on it, but judging from the things that are around it, it's not that precise for the torch that I have, so I don't think I'm going to try to heat it up, at least not yet. I'm just going to keep hitting it with penetrating oil, and I'm going to go ahead and drill into it and tap it and see if we can't slowly back that thing out. All right, guys, not exactly sure where we left off. I'm pretty sure it was with the bolt, so that's what we're about today. I'm going to just show you here real quick. So the bolt is still in there. I've drilled it out as much as I can. Obviously, it's not coming out. There's not much bolt left, but we're at the point where we need to do something else. Only other thing that I can do right now is basically drill out the whole thing and then put in new threads. The fan earlier, we couldn't get the bolts loose because it basically had no tension and it just kept turning. So I went and got another 12 millimeter wrench. So I'm gonna put it on one bolt and then try to get the other ones loose, throw some PV blaster on there. So we're gonna have to take out the fan, the shroud, and then maybe even the radiator, so I have enough room to get down in there to do the drilling, because the last thing I want to do is to drill it incorrectly and get it sideways or something like that where the threads are not straight in. So that's the plan for today. So first thing we gotta do is get this fan out of the way and then start taking the shroud off and everything else so we can have good clearance. All right guys, it is the end of the day. Just to let you know where we're at. Bolt still in there. That has not changed. I have not been able to free those 4 bolts up on the fan to be able to take that out, to then be able to take the fan shroud out, to then be able to get the radiator out. What did we get accomplished today? Got our new trans cooler in. It looks great, works fine. Hoses are not connected because, just like everything else on this vehicle, they're brittle and they cracked when I took them off. So I'm pretty sure those are 21 years old. So we're gonna get new cooler lines. Thankfully, they're not that expensive. We took off the front fender here. It is over there in the stack of parts. The kick panel, we had to take that off, or the side steps, whatever you want to call them. We had to take those off to be able to take the fender off. I kind of like the vehicle like this without them. I mean, maybe some rock sliders at some point in time, but I kind of like the look without them. So that's the look without, and then that's the look with. So you guys let me know, with or without. I'm kind of leaning towards without, but I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments below what you think. All right guys, sweating, 97 degrees out here. So I went back to something I was trying earlier the other day and using another 12mm wrench, holding one of the bolts while trying to free one of the bolts. So I think with the added tension of the pulley and then holding the bolt in place, it was enough. So right now, as you can see, I've done that with all the bolts. We have 1 remaining. And then once that is free, we're gonna start taking apart all this front here, all just to give us enough space to get down there and fix that bolt, rethread it. And then after that, it's putting everything back together. It's coming along. All right guys, here is the update for today. I used liquid wrench, penetrating oil, and kept soaking this thing, and finally it started to get a little bit of an opening there between the pulley and the clutch. So anyways, I took that orange wedge right there. So I had the wedge in this side kind of stuck between the pulley and the fan clutch, and then on this side I just had a long piece of wood so it wouldn't damage any of the stuff, and kind of slowly started prying. And then finally it popped off, and unfortunately it popped off because then it hit the ground, and the fan clutch, the part that bolts on here, dented a little bit, so I'm now gonna have to buy one of those. But the fan is okay. I think this is turning into a full-blown, I'm just gonna do the timing service myself, because I mean I'm pretty much already there. I gotta take that off, gotta take that off, undo that, take this off, and I mean that's pretty much it. And then I have access to all that, and I can put all the new parts on myself, do it $500–600 cheaper, and then know that the work was done correctly and it's all brand new parts that I installed. So it's probably what we're gonna do. I don't want to do it because it's more work, but you know, whatever. So that might be it for today, or I might come back and go ahead and drill out that alternator hole. I don't know yet. We'll just see how the day progresses, but the alternator needs to be drilled out, tapped, and rethreaded, and then I guess I'll make a decision on whether I'm doing this timing belt job or not.
Alright, so in this image are the new threads I had to tap in order for the helicoil to have somewhere to fasten. And in this image are the 2 helicoils I screwed in so the alternator bolt would have a new home. Fortunately, everything went smoothly and I was able to continue taking apart the engine.
Alright, so right now we are working to get the fan clutch bracket off. All the bolts are out, but as you can see, it kind of goes down into here and then here, and it shares, I guess, this bracket with the AC unit. So if we go down below, alright, so down here underneath the truck, there's going to be 2 bolts that corresponds with. So there's going to be 1 bolt right there, and then just behind the little filter, I get some light, there you go, there is the second bolt right there. Now I'm putting in a brand new fan clutch bracket, so judging from the bolt holes on that, these should be the last 2, and this should free that up. So for that 1 bolt that was on the bottom, just get yourself a long breaker bar like this and a super extension. Probably if you had one of those swivels on the end, it'd make it a little bit easier, but this is about, I don't know, 12 to 16 inches, something like that. And you're able to break it out. What a pain in the butt. This is the longest extension I've ever used. But those 2 bolts are free now, so let's see if we can get it out.
Alright, so after you get those last 2 bolts out from the fan clutch bracket, this little tab here is going to be in your way. So what you're going to want to do is just bend it back out of your way, and then you should have enough clearance to get the fan clutch bracket out.
Oh, golly. Even with this cheater bar. And when in doubt, bring in reinforcements. Yeah, so you're going to have to hold it really tight, and you're going to have to pull that way. You got it?
I got it.
You sure?
It ain't coming off, is it?
No, just hold it. Pull back.
I'm pulling. You're pulling more.
Here, honey, jump in here. Jump in here. Hold that.
Oh, what?
Hold that.
This?
Yeah, y'all push back away from me.
Okay.
Push towards the driver's side. Ready?
Yeah.
Push.
Or push it.
Push.
Ow, 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 ow. That's my hand.
Come on, y'all.
Ow.
That's 2 of you.
Dad,
Yeah.
stop.
I can't believe that's that tough.
Yeah, it's 180
It
foot
ain't
pounds.
even budged.
Let me see.
Alright, so what I basically had to do, because myself nor help from others, we couldn't hold the tool here in place and then also have enough leverage to break the bolt loose. So I turned the tool 180 degrees this way, and then I wedged it against the frame, and then I pulled to break the bolt loose, and then that stayed fixed. Bolt broke loose, and if you look at my timing marks, they are off. So while this tool is still attached to the crank pulley, I'm gonna go and put everything back in time and then start taking everything off to do the rest of the timing job.
After breaking the crank bolt free, I went on to remove the tensioner for the timing belt. The tensioner is held in by 2 bolts, and my book called for loosening the bolts in an alternating fashion until the tensioner was free.
Alright, well hopefully this works. I couldn't really find anything great online for a puller, so I bought this. I connected it with the 2 bolts that came with the pulley holder. As you can see, I've put quite a bit of washers on it, and so this doesn't mess up my threads. If you can see in there, I have a 50-cent piece that is going to be the sacrificial lamb as the pressure plate, so I can screw this thing into it and see if I can get this thing undone. So hopefully it doesn't require too much pressure and this thing will come loose. All right, it worked. I actually had to add a couple more 50-cent pieces, 3 50-cent pieces pressed up against this so it didn't damage it, and it looks like it is fine. Didn't mess up the threads. All right, so now we continue. So this timing plate is the next thing to come off. All right, so I guess this is the obligatory look at my belt. But as you can see, it's not really that bad. I don't see any big cracks or anything like that. It actually looks pretty decent. From the marking that was on the air box over here, this was done just about 90,000 miles ago. But honestly, still looks pretty good. But we're gonna go ahead and replace everything.
Alright, this clip has everything to do with the open of this video and the missing bolt. As you can see, I'm loosening the bolts to the water pump housing. Right below is the oil pump housing. From the angle I was at, it was hard to distinguish them apart. And because of that, I loosened and took out one of the oil pump housing bolts without even noticing it, and I didn't even know I had an extra bolt until the whole engine was put back together. Luckily, I had this video evidence to see what I had done, and then 5 hours later, the bolt was back in, the engine back together for a second time. Moral of the story is count your bolts and be methodical when doing large jobs.
Alright guys, so now we have the water pump off, and one thing that I have found out by cleaning this is that there is some severe pitting going on. So let me show you what I'm dealing with. I thought that this might be unique to me, but apparently from looking online it is not unique to me at all. In fact, a lot of 100 series owners have this issue. But if you see here, there is pitting, and pretty bad pitting actually, right down here, all around the water pump. Now from what I've read, this is from the coolant and just sometimes maybe even bad mixture, like getting between the seals and then the metal on metal, the aluminum, and then whatever the gasket metal material is touching each other, and then there being some reaction there, and then it's starting to cause corrosion and pitting, and this is what you get. So what I've been doing is there was actually something within all the pits, and I just thought that it was the gasket material, but now that the more and more that I've been looking online, I believe that someone used RTV to kind of fill in and flatten out those pits, so whenever they put the gasket on, it sealed it correctly instead of having those pits so close to the edge where the coolant could potentially leak underneath it. I have my Dremel tool here with this stainless steel brush that I've been cleaning, not just polishing the surface, but also it's helping to get the sealant out of the pits. And then also in some of the harder places, I've been using this stainless steel brush to get that clean as well. So what I'm going to continue to do is clean the surface with these, make sure I'm getting as much out of there as possible, and once I do, then I'm going to come in with some RTV, probably sealant that is specifically for water pumps, so it'll obviously resist the glycol mixture. I'm hoping it works here as well, and we will just seal it up, have no problems, and then just keep on moving. All right guys, today is the day to do the water pump. So I got some water pump and thermostat housing gasket maker from Permatex. It is very small, but this is really all I'm going to be using it on, so I don't feel like I need a lot. So basically all I'm going to do, which I've said earlier, is that I'm going to fill in these pits the best I can, smooth it out with a razor blade, and then when everything's relatively smooth, I'm going to go ahead and put the gasket on, and then go ahead and put the water pump on top of that. If you are watching this video now and you are wondering if it has held up and it's been a while since this video has been out, just send me a message. Just leave it down in the comments below, or you can message me at my Instagram and just ask, and I'll be completely open and honest with you about if this fix work. And so I'm gonna go ahead and do it, and then I'll show you what it looks like before I put the gasket on, and then we'll complete the process. Okay, so this is how it looks. Not the prettiest in the world, but it has filled in all of the spots, and I try to get it as smooth as possible. So I'm gonna go ahead and put on the gasket and get this thing locked in place. It is time to torque these down to specifications. If this paper here is correct, we are going to be torquing just the bolts to 15 foot-pounds, and then the stud bolts here and the nut we're going to be torquing to 13 foot-pounds. As always, don't take my word for it. Please go and do your own research to make sure that is correct. But that is what I have, and that is what I'm going with. All right, and that is the water pump done. Now to reassemble everything else. All right guys, we now have the water pump on. So don't forget to install your O-ring up here on this pipe. And I just used soapy water, which is what it calls for. And then slid that in, and then just hoping and praying that this that fix will hold up and we will not have any leaks. All right guys, now I did skip a few steps here, so I apologize, but let me tell you what I did. So first I put on the tensioner, then I put on the idler pulley. Both of those per my specifications were 25 foot-pound torque. Then I put on the belt, lining it up here as you can see. Left cam, right cam, and then down here with the crank. So as you can see, the white line there is at that little dot, and then those correspond with that, and then there's two more up there that actually would go down over that. So everything is as it should be. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and assemble this part down here at the crank. Then I'm going to do 2 full rotations of the engine to make sure that all the timing marks line up. And as long as they do, we're going to start putting this engine back together. All right, let's torque this thing down to 181 foot-pounds. All right, so I put the tool back on that we use to break the crankshaft bolt. And I have my wrench here in place, which is gonna go up against the frame for some leverage. And then I have this set to 181 foot-pound, which is what it calls for. So here we go. There we go, 181 foot-pound. And not that you would forget, but just remember you have these 2 bolts under here, one right there, and then that one back up at the top that you need to do. I did just put those on loosely so then I could move the bracket around and make it easier for these two to thread in a little bit better. And they're tightened down, so now I'm gonna go ahead and torque everything down to spec. as you can tell, the engine is put back together. Now, probably what you're asking yourself is what happened to the second half of putting that together. Well, so apparently last night while the time lapse was running, my camera just decided to quit. It wasn't for a lack of memory on the card or battery, it just went black. So I put up as much as it recorded, and then after that it was basically a black screen. So I don't know really what happened, but I found out too late and I'd pretty much put everything back together. So if there's something in the second half of the engine assembly that you wanted to know about or that you were looking for and obviously you didn't get to see, go ahead and leave that down in the comments below or hit me up on Instagram and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. I know that's frustrating, but unfortunately that's just the way that it is. So what we're going to do right now is everything is put back together. I've just double checked to make sure all the connections are correct, and we're going to go ahead and take off the radiator cap here and go ahead and fill it up, make sure there's no leaks, and then we're going to start this bad boy up. Alright, Alex is going to keep watch on the engine bay. I'm going to jump in and we're going to start this thing up, hopefully for the first time. You let me know when.
Yeah, I'd say go for it.
Alright, full send.
We got a leak.
Oh no!
Yeah.
What kind of leak? Fuel leak? Go!
It's from the hardline fitting.
Oh yeah. Hey, good first startup though.
Yeah, crank right up.
Alright, so we are gonna handle this and then we'll be right back. Alright guys, so we have got that leak fixed. As you can see, no lights on the dash, so very, very happy about that. Alternator is charging, which is great. That was the reason that we started this whole thing in the first place. And I will say, so the issue we had, so this filter, this oil, or this fuel filter is a Wix filter, and it comes with two copper crush washers and then also like this rubber O-ring. We had to use that in order to stop that. Now I would watch the video and this guy said you didn't have to use any of that, and maybe he didn't have to, but we had to. So there's just this black seal that went around the nipple of the filter, and then that crushed into it, and since then we have not had any leaks. And here we go, we're getting some bubbles. Hopefully the thermostat's beginning to open up, and then after that, you know, bleed the system and do it all over again. But very, very happy, and this thing sounds amazing. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this video. As you can see, the vehicle is running very good, very smoothly now. Everything has been put back how it's supposed to be, and really it's just a great running vehicle now. I'm super happy with how everything turned out, and even with all the setbacks I had during this job, I was able to overcome them, and this vehicle is running like new. If you guys have any questions about the work that I did on this vehicle, or if you just want to leave a comment, leave them down below, or you can hit me up on my Instagram and I'll return your message as soon as possible. Also, if you're enjoying the content on the LX, be sure to like this video. Be sure to subscribe to the channel because I have tons more videos coming out on this vehicle. Also, if you enjoyed it, be sure to share it with your friends. And as always, thank you for watching.